Testing. Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Progress, and we're back again with another video. So, today I'm going to be talking about family court, and basically, we're going to just go over like the realities of how it is in the court systems. And I've got a video here that I want to talk about, which is called The Child Maintenance Scandal. It says Noel Wilcock. I've already posted about this on my channel, so if you want to check it out, let me know. I appreciate everyone that messaged in the last chat, but unfortunately I had fallen asleep. So they're going to talk a lot about the child maintenance system within the United Kingdom, and how around 2006 they were basically, salute hobbies, bro, hope you're doing all right. They were basically, so the child maintenance service, or if you're in America, you have the family courts. They were basically using men's salaries and inflating them. So if you got paid £100 a week, they were putting that you got paid like £300 a week. So I think we could start with the real cost of government. No, we're going to go with this one, the truth about the child maintenance system. We're going to watch it because it's very incisive. Let's go. I've got to start the video. There we go.
Yeah, okay, so the actual topic that we're going to talk about today was
Let me know if you can hear it, guys.
The Child Support Agency. So the Child Support Agency was set up back in the 1990s, and it was set up under, I believe it was the Thatcher government at that time. And obviously what the Child Support Agency was there to do was set up in principle to support single parent families. So what was pumped out through the media was, what we're going to do is force deadbeat dads to pay for their children. So we're going to
now, this is important. You have to understand they're talking about like deadbeat dads, but the vast majority of men are on child support. Like, we're talking about 94% of men, 94.5% of men are on child support. Well, the other under 5%, basically, let me be honest, are women, and we don't really account for them. We're just talking for the men. And he's talking about how deadbeat dads is what it was mainly made for. However, you have to understand that the vast majority of these men are not deadbeat dads. It's very rare that you find a man who's paying little amounts of child support, specifically because everyone's working out here. Men all work. If they're not, it's very unlikely to see a person who's hiding their income. So I just want to really put that out there before he goes on a little bit more. This is an incisive video that I believe that every man should watch, and you should try and finish, because, and this is just like the reality. You need to know how it actually is in these courts and the systems with family court, child support, marriage and relationships. You do not actually need to get married. It's more like a extra bonus. So if you get married, you get tax benefits, so you get less tax. You don't have to pay as much tax on your inheritance, so it's an incentive for you then, if you have a child, to pay less tax. But that also is dependent upon whether that you have a lot of money. But I want him to talk a little bit more, and I'm going to expand on my points.
Introduce legislation and an act of law, which is what they did. And then what we're going to do is give this agency a whole host and a full armory of enforcement powers to go with it as well. And these enforcement powers are used with no accountability whatsoever. So the Child Support Agency ran from the 90s to 2012. And because of the large volume of complaints, which we'll go into soon, because of the large volume of complaints that they kept receiving, they closed the Child Support Agency down. And then they introduced the Child Maintenance Service. But what they did is they changed the regulations. They changed a few members of staff, but in essence, it was the same pig, just different lipstick.
So what he's talking about here is he's talking about the child maintenance. They used to have something called the child maintenance. I think it was the agency, where it was like more manual, and now they have like child support, where it's like you can just put anyone on that by just putting their name in on the internet of the baby father, and then they just say, yep, tick to paternity on the internet, and then child support is calculated based upon your income through HMRC. Because I have a vast majority of American viewers, HMRC is what you call the IRS. So that is where you see your tax. That is where they know your income, okay? And the child maintenance service in the United Kingdom is what you call in America divorce court, child support court, or basically the people who calculate child support, and the people who it's basically where the family courts are, right? So to put it simply, for someone who doesn't understand any part of what I'm saying, you're basically looking at a institution which is called the CMS, the Child Maintenance Service in the United Kingdom, that calculates child support. And in America, you have obviously the courts, and you have your service online. But don't get me, I'm not familiar with the old American system. I know you go to court sometimes, and I think you can apply online, but I'm familiar with my country. So let's go.
So it just continued what everybody had been complaining about for years and years and years, and it eventually got to a point where the National Audit Office said, you know, these figures are just completely out of control. So I think what we need to do is look at Noel Shanahan, where in 2011 he was the Child Support Agency director. So he was the director when they transitioned from the Child Support Agency over into the Child Maintenance Service. And what we'll see, even though this is a legacy of debt and it's historic, it's still to this day is an issue. And that's why when we talk about this historic, this is the issue of what we're seeing now. And the large volume of complaints that I see, testimony that I see, statements that I see, people coming forwards making complaints to me because they know that I'm campaigning on this, and they also know that Reform is campaigning on this as well. And Reform has been talking about it. So I originally took this to Richard Tice, and after a period of time, you know, he started really getting on board with what was going on, because what we're going to sort of, you know, see today is just an overview really of what's going on. But once you actually start digging into the detail, and I always say the devil is always in the detail, and that's what I do. And I don't know whether it's, I've just got an
100%. I 100% agree with him. And I'm telling you this right now, that when you start to look in depth within the company and start to look at how are certain things operating, you start to realize that the CMS in this country are making a lot of money. Well, particularly because they have to take 20% off of the, well, they incentivize people. So I'm going to really explain this in depth, because I want this live stream to be something that you can watch back. I don't want it to be something which you click on and then you fuck off and then you don't actually learn anything. So in the United Kingdom, England, where I'm at, you pay a extra 20% if you get put on collect and pay. And collect and pay is basically the CMS collecting the money off of the paying parent, and then there is an extra 4% that is deduced from the receiving parent, and that's 24% that the CMS will take. So the remainder goes on to the receiving parent. So it's quite like, so they're basically just using automated bots just to make money. So they're not really anything special. They're just out here bullshitting. And that's basically how they make 500 million. From 2019, there was a guy who made a video on it. I don't know if I'll play it, but from 2019 to 2022 or so, they made around 500 million, right? Just from getting the money from one receiving parent's account into the paying parent's account. So they're quite crafty. And the thing is, with law, you have to look to the depth of what is going on. You can't just look at surface level, because there's certain law. For example, you have the law of the land and the law of the sea. So you're not just dealing with one set of law, you're dealing with different types of law. And when you start going into it, like for example, there's some people who go in depth with certain bits of the law where you open up doors in the courtroom, and that then shows consent, etc. Like it's generally that serious and that deep. However, it really doesn't work. But here, what I'm saying is, when it comes to the family law, they have the power to make any sorts of legislation pass because it makes so much money anyways. And he's going to go into talking about how there was a time where they were inflating people's salaries and they were paying more child support than what they should have been paying, or what we call it, child maintenance. So yeah,
analytical brain or what, I have no idea, but I tend to just read things and really see the picture in black and white. And when I started reading, because when I started reading all of these sorts of things, I in my mind I'm thinking to myself, do you know, that's not right, that's not right, and that's not right. And then you start piecing it and mapping it together, and it paints this picture of what I'm going to be talking about today.
And before we start unpacking it,
yeah,
just so people understand that, like, the summary of the scandal is that large number of parents were being overcharged, being landed with huge amounts of debt, leaving them little money for them to live on themselves, an inability to get rid of that debt or contact the service to get it reevaluated, and a high number of people ended up committing suicide.
That's pretty much you've given the overview. And
yeah, so a lot of people did end up committing suicide, and it's because of the exorbitant amounts of child support that they were having to pay back. So yeah.
And what, you know, how I was going to do this today was that we could kind of go through everything and then piece that together so you can see. But that is pretty much the overview of what's gone on, is that we have this legacy of debt that goes back, you know, a number of years, which we'll see today from parliamentary footage. And I think it's really important that the public see the parliamentary footage and the reaction. That was the thing when I first saw the clip that we're going to see in a minute. We've got Noel Shanahan, who's the director, who sits there and says that the Child Support Agency routinely used to inflate incomes by 300%.
Well, this is the thing that made me think of the nudge unit.
Yeah.
So we had David Holborn in here from the nudge unit. He talked about how when government wanted to get things done, they would come up with nudges. I'll give you a good example. Lots of people don't have pensions. They can get pensions through their company. So employees of my companies can get a pension. If they ask for one, we can. A percentage of their income goes to the pension, and we have to match to a certain percent. A lot of people weren't taking that up. So now we have to auto-enroll everybody over a certain amount into the pension, and they have to choose not to have it. That's an example of a nudge. You've nudged them into the pension, so they've got it, and because there's a friction to remove themselves, more people end up with pensions. That's a nudge item. When I heard of this, them inflating the numbers, it was the statutory, what did they call it? I've got it written in my notes. What was it called, Con? Remind me. In the enforcement notice.
Well, sorry, what's this regarding? Is this regarding
this is the demand for the payment? This was it
punitive agreements to choose.
Yeah, but it was a statutory, like, what was the actual demand for money called?
A liability order.
Yeah, it was called something else in the thing. But anyway, but when I heard they were inflating it by 300%, before they knew the number, right?
They know absolutely everything about you: your name, your middle name, last name, date of birth, absolutely everything, your bank accounts, you name it, your job, where you live, blah blah blah. So what they were doing was they were inflating the payments on these men that were paying, and they were paying exorbitant amounts of upwards of 300%, which is fraud, by the way. This is literally fraud. So we had the child support court, the CMS, but for the people in America, you could just say the bloody family court was basically fucking these guys over. So if you got paid 100, it would be inflated by 300%, which is ridiculous.
They wanted you to pay, let's say, just putting broad figures out there, £100 a week. They would inflate your income to £300 a week to scare you, to contact them, to say, well, I'm not earning that amount of money, so how could I pay 300? And they say, oh, I'll tell you what then, what we'll do, we'll negotiate this with you and you can pay £100 a week. But what they never did was clear that £200 a week. So you were paying that £100 a week. So they never cleared that £200 a week. And that grew in what we would call the 1993 and 2003 schemes.
Were these was it an interim payment order? Is that what they?
It's an interim maintenance assessment.
That was it. The interim maintenance assessment. Okay, so before we unpack it all, a last question: based on everything you've seen so far, you understand it. What's your general view on having something like the CMS, the Child Maintenance Service? You know, having it is a good thing. Are there lots of deadbeat dads who don't look after the kids and they should be pursued? What's your kind of general view on it?
That's a really interesting question.
Should the state be involved in this?
You got to look at the whole picture. It's not just a case of saying we want something in place to go after people to pay money. Why are we not looking at the support elements of things? Why has something not been, this is what we're seeing here in the United Kingdom. We're seeing the breakdown of the family unit.
Yeah.
It is so broken. We have 43% of people that are divorced, that are getting divorces. We haven't even accounted then the percentage of people that are staying for the children. And specifically, we also have not even accounted for the people that are staying because they don't want to go through divorce court, family court, you name it, because it's too contentious, it's too problematic, it causes so much stress. So then you go to a quite high percentage of people, and then you also have to factor in the people that are newly married as well. So those people who are newly married are more attuned to believe that marriage is something which is blissful, because when you start out with something first, it's like when you start out a job first, you're very naive, you're proactive, you're not cynical about it at all. It's the same thing with marriage. So these newlywed couples are like they're fucking idiots, bro, to be honest with you. But he's not wrong on what he's saying. Like, the whole system is fucking corrupt, bro. And the vast majority of these guys are not deadbeat fucking dads, bro. They're just normal lads paying who work fucking normal jobs.
And those are our core values and our principles that we just can't get away from. If you've got strong families, you've got a strong society. But everything in Britain is broken, including all of our families.
Yep.
And it suits the state, doesn't it, to have everybody bickering and fighting all the time over the sound bites they're getting pumped out. So they say, we're going to set up this unit that's going to be big, ugly, nasty. The public buys into it because we're going to go after all of these dads that don't want to pay for their children. I'm seeing quite the opposite. I'm seeing parents that are trying to pay for their children, but they're trying to pay for the right amounts.
Yeah, but I've got experience with the service. I'm divorced. We didn't need it. We figured it out. But I know of its existence. But I have a friend. This is one of the flip side that really pissed me off. Really good friend of mine. She's separated, 2 kids. The kids mainly live with her.
Yeah,
the majority of the time. She pays for everything. She's trying to get support. The way he's set up and structured his business is a way that it looks like he earns hardly anything, drives around in a nice car, lives in a big house, but the CMS haven't been able to do the job of calculating what he really earns. We all know he earns probably a 6-figure salary, and I think he's put in like 12 grand minimum. And so not a judgment on that, it's more the judgment of like, how could a service possibly...
That's so exceptional, though. That's the thing. And also, a lot of guys work on who are on child support anyways. So, yeah, like, that's just basic knowledge. Like, the vast majority of people are working.
Deal with every single situation like this and find out every piece of financial information to come to an accurate calculation. It feels like almost an impossible task.
It's an advertisement. But yeah, like, it's just, I don't know. He's just giving one situation, so don't take it to heart value.
And I think what you need to do is look at shared care where applicable. That's the first thing. That should be the starting point. If you decide to have a child in a consensual relationship, you are both equally responsible for that child. Both of you. You know, you're responsible for the financial welfare of that child, the mental welfare of that child, and the support mechanisms for that child. Why has everything always got to be about money? It's always about money. You know.
Oh, let me be honest with you. The world's about money, so that's why the world is about money. So what the heck? I don't know what to say, man. Like, the world's about money, you know. So yeah, it will always be about money when it comes to these kids, man. And it's just how it is, man. It takes money to raise a kid, and the economy is not looking very good right now. So people are gonna just break up and then put people on child support. The system is there to make money, incentivizes collect and pay. It's just that simple, bro. I don't know what to say, man. It's basically just looking, it's just how law works, man. It's like, for example, crime. It just works on people failing and having a bad day, and then they just fucking make money off of it, bro. Like, the solicitors are getting paid, or if you call them the lawyers, and the barristers, the judges, the investigators, anyone who has to be hired outside of court to provide extra evidence. The courtrooms stay up, like all these thousands of courtrooms that we have in this country, and the solicitors and judges and whatever, they're all dependent upon people having failing homes, committing crimes, and also dying. You fucking name it, bro. It's a business. So yeah, that's basically it.
Exactly like what you were alluding to earlier on about these nudge units. I think everything's like a nudge, isn't it? Your council tax comes through in April and it's all there in red. If you do not pay, blah, 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 you know, you get a parking ticket. You know, now when you get even like a speeding fine, I've never had so many fines in my life. I mean, I can't walk from here to there or drive from here to there without getting a
cases. We're going to show like online child support, online court cases, NBA players, NFL players, athletes, high earners, low earners, people struggling, fucking all that shit in these courts. And then we're also going to do, I was also going to do what else? I think that was mainly the whole for this like certain topic. So I appreciate you for coming out. And I'll catch you guys in part 2. Peace.